Hi, this is Aditya from Just Tutors, and in this video we are going to learn about distance time graphs. This is a sequel to our previous video on motion and time. So today we'll be covering three subtopics. The first one is units of time and speed, then we learn about how to measure speed, and at the end we'll talk about the distance time graphs. So let's start with the units of time. Now the basic unit of time is seconds, and the symbol that we use for that is a small s, or we can write SEC for seconds in short. Now we have larger units of time as well, like minutes, hours, years, weeks, and days, depending upon our need. For example, when we have to express the age of a man, we use years rather than days. Also, time taken to go from one place to another is measured in hours rather than years or seconds. So we should always choose our units very wisely. Now we'll talk about some time measuring instruments. So earlier in old times we used to have water clocks and sand clocks like the one shown in the picture right here. But nowadays we use modern time measuring devices like digital clock or analog clocks. One more thing that we should keep in mind is that all the symbols of time and the units of time, they all are written in singular. For example, if we have to write 50 minutes, we just write 50 MIN. We don't write that as 50 MINS. You know, there are other instruments which can measure time smaller than seconds, like scientific clocks and atomic clocks as well. Now let's talk about the units of speed. Now we've discussed this in the previous video that speed is the distance traveled per unit time, and the basic unit of distance is meter and that of the time is second. So this makes the unit of speed to be meter per second. Speed can also be measured in other units such as meter per minute or kilometers per hour. You can find these units right here on the screen. Now one more thing to keep in mind is that the different units, they depend on our need. If we are talking about the speed of a tortoise, we measure that in centimeters per second as it covers a very small distance. Instead, if we talk about the speed of rockets, it's measured in kilometers per second because they cover very large distance in a second. Talking about a car, we measure the speed in kilometers per hour depending upon how much distance it covers in an hour. So again, we should choose our units very wisely. Now let's talk about the speed measuring instrument. So the device that is used to record speed in vehicles directly is called a speedometer. Now you have seen something like that in your car or any other automobile. This is actually a speedometer. Now we also have a tachometer, which is another instrument to measure speed. The tachometer tells us about the number of revolution the automobile wheels are going through. Then another device that we use to measure distance covered by the vehicle is called the odometer. You can find that in your car as well, or maybe on your two-wheeler. Now again, we've discussed this already that the symbols of all the units are written in singular. For example, if you're writing the speed to be 12 kilometers per hour, it's written as 12 kilometers slash h and not as 12 kilometers like kms slash h. So this is something that you should keep in mind while you're writing these physical quantities. Now let's talk about measuring speed. Now we know that speed is calculated as total distance traveled divided by the total time taken. So let's say that the distance between 2 points is 25 meters as shown in the figure right here, and it takes 5 hours to cover this distance. So we have to work out the speed of the person covering this distance. So that will be the distance, which is 25 meters in this case, divided by the time, which is 5 hours in this case, which comes out to be 5 meters per hour. So we can say that the object covering, or the person covering this distance, is traveling at a speed of 5 meters per hour. Now moving on, the next topic would be the distance time graph. Now when the distance covered by an object and the time taken to cover that distance is represented on a graph, we call that as a distance time graph. Now as you can see here, the distance has been shown on the vertical axis and the time has been shown on the horizontal axis right here. You should always keep in mind the units of measurement as well. Like the distance here, if you take a look at the table here, it's in kilometers, and the time which has been shown here is in hours. So think about, if a vehicle covers a distance of 5 kilometers every hour and travels for 5 hours, the distance time graph for the given vehicle can be plotted as given here. So if you take a look at the table, in the first hour it covers 5 kilometers, then in 2 hours it covers 10 kilometers, making it 5 kilometers every hour. So at the end of 5 hours, the distance covered is 25 kilometers. And that has been shown right here in the distance time graph. So for 1 hour, the distance is 5 kilometers. For 2 hours, if you take a look at the table, it would be 10 kilometers. Similarly, for at the end of 5 hours, the distance covered is 25 kilometers. Now we have come on to the practice questions, so you can pause the video and think about whatever we have learned so far and attempt these questions as well. So I have provided you the answers for the first 3 questions. We'll discuss the numerical at the end here. So we have to work out which car is moving at a faster speed. Now we work out the speed of the first car by putting the distance at the top and dividing it by the time covered the car takes to cover that distance. So 50 divided by 5 gives you 10 kilometers an hour. We have to take care of the units as well, as the distance is in kilometers and the time is in hours. So the speed comes out to be in kilometers an hour. Similarly, the speed of car B would be the distance 40 divided by the time 2 hours, which gives you 20 kilometers an hour. So clearly, car B moves at a greater speed. Now pause the video again and attempt these 3 questions. Now I have provided you the answer for these questions as well. We've discussed odometer and speedometer. Odometer is used to cover the distance, and speedometer tells us the speed of the vehicle at any particular moment. So that would be all for today. Thank you for watching this video. Please visit justtutors.com for more.